What up, what up, what up? What's going on? It's the pastor. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hoping everybody's well today on this Sunday evening. Facebook Live with the pastor at 7:01. On a wonderful Sunday evening in the Christmas season, okay? I hope everybody's had a wonderful day today. For those who worship today, that you had a good day of fellowship and worship at your service. For those who don't attend church services or whatever, I pray that you've had a wonderful day today also. And tonight, I felt I needed to get on tonight to talk about, on Thursday we had a press conference out in Walterboro at St. Paul CME church out on Ritter Road in Walterboro with the Dantzler and Dantzler-Williams family, with Mrs. Betty Simmons and Eric and Darren Dantzler, with Randall Williams, and with Brittany. Mrs. Simmons is the mother of the mother and the grandmother of the two girls who were killed on Mother's Day, May 8th, 2022, by a Charleston County Sheriff's deputy. Okay, and many of you know about the case or whatever, but and then Darren and Eric are the two girls' uncles and the mother's brothers. And Randall Williams is the father to the two girls. The mother that was killed that night, her name is Stephanie Dantzler. The two girls, Shanice Dantzler-Williams and Miranda Dantzler-Williams. A serious tragedy. And we had a press conference at St. Paul CME Church on Thursday, once again keeping the memory and the search for justice, the quest for justice alive in this case, because it's been 2.5 years and absolutely nothing has happened in this case. Nothing at all has happened. I'm going to call her the killer. Her name is Emily Pelletier, who is directly the cause of her, because of her negligence, of the deaths of these three women on Mother's Day, 2022. She was arrested a month later and released on bond the same day, and she's been out on the streets enjoying life ever since. While this family continues to mourn the loss of their three loved ones. And my friends, that just ain't right. So while I'm starting this up, let me see if I can get some folks tagged right quick while I open with a song called by Phil Collins. It's called In the Air of Night. Let me see what I can do about getting some folks tagged up while the song is playing here. Some of you all will recognize it. Welcome to Facebook Live with the pastor. Let me see if I can get some people tagged up, if my tag button is working tonight. It's really ironic, my tag button isn't working well tonight. So if you're on, would you please share this out so we can get some more people on? It's really ironic that I even have to have this live tonight after 2.5 years, and there's been no justice for this family. The evidence is overwhelming when we talk about the situation that happened the night that they died. It's irrefutable. That night, Charleston County Sheriff's Deputy Emily Pelletier, in responding to a non-emergency call, where she didn't actually have to have her emergency lights on or sirens. This was at night, And her and the other responding officer, they were literally racing to get to the scene of this non-emergency call. And the stretch of road that Emily Pelletier took was about a 3-mile stretch down a very dimly lit 2-lane road, tree-lined road, no lights, no sirens. And instead of observing the 45-mile-an-hour speed limit that's there, Sheriff's Deputy Emily Pelletier, she accelerated from getting the call from 25 miles an hour to at one point 90 miles an hour down this 3-mile stretch of dark road in the middle of the night. She was flying down this road. It's called New Road. Flying down that road. And at the same time that she was flying down this road trying to beat her fellow deputy to the scene of this non-emergency call, 3 African-American women, 3 women, it doesn't make a difference whether they're black or white or whatever, okay? 3 women who had celebrated Mother's Day that day and were returning home that night, driving south on Highway 17, relishing in the fact that they had a wonderful day that day, the day before one of the women, the young women, the youngest daughter, Miranda, she had actually graduated from Claflin College, gotten her degree with a future ahead of herself. So I know it was a joyous Mother's Day when they decided, okay, it's time to go on home. And as they drove down Highway 17, unaware of anything other than the fact that it was a great day that they spent together, little did they know that that was the last time that they were going to spend together on this earth. Charleston County Sheriff Deputy Emily Pelletier, in answering this non-emergency call, turned onto the 3-mile stretch of New Road and accelerated from 25 miles an hour to 90 miles an hour at a point in a 45-mile-an-hour stretch of highway, 2-lane, at the end of which at Highway 17, where Stephanie Dantzler, the mother, and her 2 daughters, Shanice and Miranda Dantzler-Williams, where they were approaching in their car on the opposite side of the street, Emily Pelletier came to the stop sign that's at Highway 17 at the intersection of 17 and New Road. And at that high, excessive rate of speed, she blew straight through that stop sign and rammed the driver's side of the vehicle that was being driven by Shanice Dantzler-Williams, and with Stephanie, her mother, Stephanie Dantzler, and her sister, Miranda Dantzler-Williams, in the car, killing all 3 of them. It was, I guess the forensic evidence said that at the moment of impact, she had to be doing around 82 miles an hour when she blew through that stop sign. Such a waste of life. Such a waste of life. And folks, this was on Mother's Day. It was on Mother's Day, 2022, 2.5 years ago. And that family, they've had no justice whatsoever. They've had to answer calls from the sheriff's office because the woman that is responsible for the death of their loved ones wants to take trips and go here and go there. And because she's out on bond, she's not allowed by court order to travel anywhere unless she gets permission from the victims. And she's had no problem saying, well, I want to go here, I want to go there. I want to enjoy my life. Since this happened, there's been, 2 Christmases, and they just celebrated, I think, the 3rd Thanksgiving. This will be the 3rd Christmas since that happened, where the Dantzler family, Mrs. Betty Simmons, Eric and Darren, her sister Brittany, their sister, the girl's sister Brittany, Randall Williams, the girl's father. Their family hasn't been with them since May 8th, 2022, while the person that took their family from them is requesting from them, oh, is it okay if I take a trip? I want to go, maybe let me take a little vacation time or something like that. Let me go visit some relatives or something like that. You know how much additional trauma that is for that family? It's so unnecessary. And the biggest part of the trauma, a major part of the trauma, is that in the 2.5 years since this has happened, this family has not been brought, this case had any semblance of justice in the judicial system whatsoever. As a matter of fact, it's just been a pushback, lack of information, no calls, no information. And the Ninth Circuit Solicitor's Office saying, man, no, we don't have anything to say. We can't get into court. We're waiting on this. We're waiting on that. And they can't get in it. So enter the press conference that we had on Thursday. One of the things that facilitated that press conference, and the press conference again was at St. Paul CME Church in Walterboro, out on Ritter Road. It's the church where the 3 of them, the mother, Stephanie Dantzler, and her 2 daughters, Shanice Dantzler-Williams and Miranda Dantzler-Williams, where they are buried at. So we had the press conference at the church where they're buried at. The cemetery, the private cemetery that's adjoining the church, that's where they're buried at. Unfortunately, along with Darren Dantzler's son, too, who recently lost his life to gun violence. How much trauma can you lay on top of the trauma that's already there? Especially in a world where we understand that term. And personally, I believe it, that justice delayed is justice denied. When will this family have any kind of justice? But back to what I was saying. Thursday's press conference was decided to be held because of the fact that although Scarlett Wilson in the Ninth Circuit Solicitor's Office is continuously saying that they can't get into court. We can't get into court. The courts are backed up. Maybe next year, maybe 2025 sometime, maybe something like that. We look at another case that happened a year later, another situation that happened a year later after the deaths of Stephanie, Shanice, and Miranda on Mother's Day of 2022. In April of 2023, there was a vehicular homicide that happened out on Folly Beach, where a newlywed, they just had the wedding ceremony there on Folly Beach, I believe it was, and they were riding in a golf cart back to the hotel where they're at, the groom and the bride, and a drunk driver rammed the golf cart that they were in, killing that newlywed. Now, I'm definitely not here to take anything away from the loss that that family experienced whatsoever. That new husband, he lost his bride. That's another pain that I can't understand at all. Or the insensitivity of this drunk driver who literally rammed them, just like Emily Pelletier did Stephanie Dantzler and Shanice and Miranda Dantzler-Williams, just like she did, rammed their golf cart, killing that bride that day. And that happened again 1 year after the deaths of the Dantzler and Dantzler-Williams girls. Both in Charleston County. Both in Charleston County. But guess what? 18 months later, just last week, Monday, that case got into court. Charleston County. Same Charleston County. Same Ninth Circuit Solicitor's Office. Scarlett Wilson. What about, let's see, vehicular homicide. Only thing in the case that went to court already, it was one person that died. Remember, in the case of the Charleston County cop killing, it was 3 that died. In the case of the one that died, that case went into court after 18 months. With the 3 that died, they still haven't gotten into court. And with no idea of when they're going to get into court. And my friends, that ain't right. That ain't right. I'm not saying that this is a racial thing, because there were 3 black women who died at the hands of the Charleston County cop, and there was a white woman that died at the hands of the white drunk driver woman. I'm not going to say it had anything to do with race whatsoever. It might have to do with the fact that Scarlett Wilson has a Charleston County deputy, a cop, a law enforcement officer that she's charged with actually prosecuting in this case. That might have something to do with it, why that hasn't gotten into court. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to say that's an overt motivation behind the delay on getting the Dantzler-Williams, the Dantzler and Dantzler-Williams family justice. I don't want to say that per se, but it's funny that it's kind of coincidental that it happened that way. Okay, but there's some other differences in this whole thing, or similarities. I don't know whether they're differences or similarities, other than the fact that, you know, in one case with the bride, the single death, it took 18 months to get into court. And with the Dantzler and Dantzler-Williams girls, now it's been over 2.5 years and still no date in sight whatsoever. But, and the fact that there were 3 women in the Dantzler-Williams and Dantzler deaths, and there was 1 in the Folly Beach one. The bonds that were set in the cases by Charleston County magistrate judges, or excuse me, I think those might have been district, I'm not sure, the judges that set the bonds. But in the deaths of the 3 women on May the 8th, 2022, the bonds that was set, the judge gave the bonds for this Charleston County deputy, for each one of the women, a $25,000 bond. $25,000 bond for in the death of a woman that was killed by a Charleston County Sheriff's deputy. Each one of the 3 of them, the bond was set at $25,000. The total bond in the death of the 3 of those women set by the judge was $75,000. You know how much the bond was for the bride that was killed on Folly Beach, the single one? Her bond was $150,000. Now, I'm not the best at math, but I am fairly good at fairness and equity. And either the bond for the woman on Folly Beach should have matched the bond that was given to the 3 black women when they were killed, $25,000, or the bond that was given to the 3 black women should have matched the bond that was given to the newlywed, $150,000, times 3, $450,000. If we just want to talk fairness and equity. I'm confused. I don't understand how it is that the system is set up this way. And I want to say something that, and I've been pretty down. I've been very down on Scarlett Wilson for years now. But once again, she has won re-election, and unfortunately, for 4 more years, she is our solicitor for the Ninth Circuit, both Berkeley and Charleston County. And in this thing about the courts and the court backup, if she'd like to sit down and have a conversation, I'm sure we can come up with a better system to move these cases through that are backlogged, a sort of a triage system, a system where you have cases that actually have enough evidence to convict, that we get them into court and get the conviction done. With the amount of evidence that we have that's been amassed against Emily Pelletier in the killing of Stephanie Dantzler and her 2 daughters, Shanice and Miranda, there's no way that there should be a delay in getting to court. None whatsoever. And maybe the system needs to be overhauled, and somebody with some common sense say, just like in hospital and medical emergencies, what do? They triage patients. They take the ones that can be treated and helped at that point, and then those that's going to take more care, they wait a little while. Those that's going to take more care. But in the court system, if there's enough evidence to convict, if the evidence is strong, get in the court. Get in the court. Again, 18 months in the death of the bride out on Folly Beach, from April of 2023 until last Monday, December of 2024. 18 months. Whereas with Stephanie Dantzler and her 2 daughters, who died on Mother's Day, a horrible death, on Mother's Day, the day after Miranda Dantzler had graduated from college, Mother's Day, May 8th, 2022. It's been 2.5 years since that happened, and still there's no date in sight for this family to get justice. That family got justice. And Live 5 News reporter Raphael James, along with one of their newer reporters, Jenna, I can't remember her last name, forgive me, covered the press conference at the church on Thursday. And Raphael had asked Scarlett Wilson some questions that she responded in writing concerning those. Okay. The first question was about court cases coming up on the docket. Okay. What about the delay that we see? And I'm going to read from what he had actually sent. That way I don't mess it up, okay? He asked the question of Scarlett Wilson. Today, the Dantzler family is holding a news conference, and one of the points they're making is that the DUI trial of Jamie Komorowski, that's the woman, the drunk woman who slammed into the golf cart, killing the newlywed, okay? That one of the points they're making is the DUI trial of Jamie Komorowski, who killed the Folly Beach bride, has been resolved before their trial. The Dantzler-Williams and Dantzler trial has even been scheduled. Scarlett Wilson responded, Komorowski pled guilty. In other words, in the death of the bride, the newlywed, the woman, the drunk driver who killed her, she took a plea deal. She pled guilty. And then Scarlett says, guilty pleas almost always move more quickly than trials. Okay? She said, while this case was put on a trial docket, we were confident that it was in fact a guilty plea. Let me think about this, okay? Now, I think about things a little differently than other people. Jamie Komorowski, after 18 months in jail, took a guilty plea because her bond was $150,000. And apparently, she didn't have that money to put up. She had to sit in jail until it was time to go to court. And she had time to think about the consequences of her actions, what happened and everything, and for them to talk to her about a plea deal. Listen, you know you want to get up out of here. You did the crime. Let's go ahead and get this plea deal out of the way and get you on to start the rest of your life wherever it's going to be at. Jamie. $150,000. But Emily Pelletier, the Charleston County Sheriff's deputy, her bond total was $75,000 for killing 3 women, 3 people. $75,000 that she posted the same day that she was arrested and bounced out of jail that same day and has been free on bond, $75,000 bond, for 2.5 years. And you think that she's thinking about, oh man, I'm in trouble. Do you really think that? No, the chances of her even taking or saying, oh, I think I might want to do a plea deal are slim to none because she's on the street. She's having a ball. She's having cocktails, celebrating birthdays and holidays. She had Thanksgiving dinner last week and buying presents for people, her family, for Christmas. Awaiting on the new year. I think her mother is alive. And she'll get her gifts next Mother's Day. But what about the family of Stephanie Dantzler and her 2 daughters, Shanice and Miranda Dantzler-Williams? What about them? If Emily Pelletier, if her bond would have been higher, maybe she would have been able to sit in jail a little longer and figured out, well, maybe I need to accept responsibility for what I did and do like Jamie Komorowski did in the death of the newlywed and say, I guess I better take a plea deal and get it done with. So, Scarlett, that dog ain't gonna hunt about the plea deal thing. As far as I'm concerned, you dropped the ball. The judge dropped the ball first with that darn $25,000 per death of 3 women. $25,000, crazy. That ball was dropped. And now there hasn't been any pressure on Emily Pelletier to take a plea deal because she's out here partying and having a good old time. Okay? And you can tell me what you want about electronic monitoring. I know enough from the streets that electronic monitoring is only as good as who wants to keep it there. Anybody who don't want to keep that monitor there. And as a matter of fact, I think they found her at one point outside or away from the jurisdiction that she had been regulated to stay in. I think. That's just me thinking, okay? So when Scarlett Wilson answered Raphael that Komorowski had taken this plea deal, that's how he got into court. Raphael said, well, why is that? And Scarlett answered, scheduling trials is like handling a Rubik's Cube. I don't know. Maybe that's some kind of joke she's trying to say, I guess. Or maybe it means like trying to get everything in line. It's a function of, and she listed a few things, 3 things. Court time, when the court can get it in. 2, defense attorney and prosecutor availability. The defense for Emily Pelletier, that's her attorneys, and the prosecutor that's available. That's Scarlett Wilson, her office, okay? And witness availability. Defense attorney, prosecutor availability, and witness availability. Now, it looks like after 2.5 years with no end to this case in sight for the Dantzler and Dantzler-Williams family, that the prosecutor really ain't doing too much for them. Okay, but in that court time, where the court helps to make the decision, defense attorney and prosecutor availability, where the defense attorney and prosecutor attorney have input, and witness availability. I guess that the victims and their families, that the Dantzler and Dantzler-Williams family, I guess they're irrelevant to that whole thing because they're not even mentioned in that anywhere. As a matter of fact, what's really crazy is that last part about witness availability. There's only one witness, and that's Emily Pelletier. And she's been on house arrest for 2.5 years, supposedly. Electronic monitoring for she should be readily available. The other 3 witnesses were killed. Come on, somebody. Make it make sense. She's dropping these lines out here that don't make sense to me. It's like like handling a Rubik's Cube, okay? You got to get the court in line, got to get the defense attorney in line, got to get the prosecutor availability in line, you got to get the witnesses in line. And never much does she even say the family. What about their availability? Didn't mention them at all, okay? And again, witness availability. There's only one witness, and she should be available 24/7. As a matter of fact, she should be sitting over in the Al Cannon Detention Center right now, awaiting trial. That's really where she should be at. That $75,000 bond for the deaths of 3 people. That dog don't hunt. That's crazy, okay? But that's not Scarlett's doing. That was the judge's doing, okay? That was the judge's doing. Okay, Raphael went on and he asked, okay, so who schedules the trial? And Scarlett said, she answered, with the relatively new admin order, we schedule trials with some input from the defense. That's Emily Pelletier stuff. We schedule trials with some input from the defense and oversight from the chief administrative judge. What? Nothing. What about the family? We schedule trials with input from the defense and oversight from the chief administrative judge. What about the family? The victims? What about them? So this shows you where the mindset is in what we're dealing with her, you know. And I hate to say it, what we're dealing with her, okay? And now, Raphael then went on to ask, what is the timeline for the Dantzler family? Are you still in contact with them? Scarlett answered, when we have information to share, we share it. He asked a direct question. What is the timeline for the Dantzler family? And she said, when we have information to share, we share it. That ain't what Raphael asked. He asked, what's the timeline? Why can't you tell this family when they can expect justice? And why is it that in 2.5 years already, whereas that other case got in on 18 months now, 18 months, why is it that the Dantzler and Dantzler-Williams family don't have any clue about when maybe some justice will come, leading them to believe in their hearts, I'm certain, that justice is not going to happen in this case? What would you think? And, you know, I'm going to tell you, from the black perspective, from our community, we have over the years come to the conclusion that the justice system does not work for us, especially when it comes to law enforcement officers, when they do wrong to us. Walter Scott was shot in the back by Michael Slager. And in the state court, with Scarlett Wilson as the solicitor, there was no conviction whatsoever. If there wasn't a civil rights violation filed against him and gone into federal court, that cop that killed Walter Scott would not be in jail right now and probably be still on the street. Scarlett Wilson could not bring in a conviction against him. So as a people, we don't necessarily trust the fact when folks say they're going to get justice for us. Justice for us means go to prison. That's what happens to us. We go to prison for sneezing, you know, or get shot, you know. But here we have this cop parlaying and sashaying and here, going here and going there and enjoying holidays and all of this with her family, while there's no justice for the Dantzler and Dantzler-Williams family. It's crazy. So after that email conversation or text thread with Raphael and Scarlett, Raphael James concluded that it seems as if she is saying the scheduling of trials does not rest solely with her department, which Scarlett Wilson has consistently said it's not us, it's them, it's the courts, it's the court system, it's them. But it looks like what she says is that it's not just solely with her department, but is handled in conjunction with the defense and the chief administrative judge. Great summation. Great summation. Contrary to what Scarlett Wilson has been saying for 2.5 years. Finally, she said something, or actually, she didn't really say it, but it couched in the middle of her words. It's like, oh yeah, we do have something to do with that. But this is insane though. It's insane. $75,000 for 3 women who were killed in a vehicular homicide by a Charleston County Sheriff deputy who drove through a stop sign at night with no lights flashing, no sirens going, and rammed, T-boned into the driver's side of this car with 3 women that were returning home after celebrating Mother's Day and the graduation of one of them from college the day before. And the judge set a bond at $25,000 per body. Forgive my bluntness. A total of $75,000. Well, some of you all might have heard that a couple of days ago, right? On Thursday, same day as the press conference, 5 people were arrested and charged in the deaths of 13 cats, right, in Somerville. 13 cats were killed in Somerville back in October, and 5 people were charged last Thursday, arrested and charged last Thursday for killing these 13 cats. One is a guy named Andrew Dock. Him and this other guy named Charles Wayland Ulmer, they were charged with criminal conspiracy and 13 counts of ill treatment of animals. Now, I'm not sure about Ulmer's bond, but Andrew Dock, again charged with criminal conspiracy and killing 13 cats, his bond was a total of $75,000. His bond for killing 13 cats and planning to kill 13 cats was the same amount of money as the bond that was set for Emily Pelletier for killing 3 women. When people say Black Lives Matter, this is a clear example of why the term Black Lives Matter is said. Their lives didn't mean as much as a herd of cats to the Charleston County Judicial Center, to that judge, whoever that judge is. I'm still looking for that judge's name. My friends, that ain't right. So Andrew Dock and this guy, Charles Ulmer, they both had the same charge. They were charged with killing 13 cats, 13 counts of felony. Actually, here's the charge. Felony ill treatment to animals. Killing 13 cats with torture, okay? And 1 count of conspiracy. Both of them carried the same charges. While the other 3 that were arrested, it was Sarah and Laura Dock. The 2 of them were charged with conspiracy, and each of them got a $20,000 bond for conspiracy. Remember, for each one of the women who lost their lives on Mother's Day 2022, May 8th, each one of them, their deaths, the bond was set at $25,000. These 2 women received bonds of $20,000 each for conspiracy. When I say Black Lives Matter, there's a reason. The final person, Michael Jeffrey Kimmerlin, he was charged with conspiracy, and he had a signature bond, okay? Somebody make it make sense. Andrew Dock, $10,000 bond plus $5,000 bond for dollar bond for 13 counts for a total of $75,000 for criminal conspiracy and 13 counts of ill treatment of animals. While the combined bonds for Stephanie Dantzler and her two daughters, Shanice and Miranda Dantzler-Williams, was $75,000. Laura and Sue Dock, $20,000 bond for criminal conspiracy. The separate bonds of the deaths of Stephanie and Shanice and Miranda, the separate bonds were $25,000 each. And our good United States House Representative Nancy Mace, she decided to chime in about the cats, which I appreciate that. You know, to the animal lovers, I appreciate that. But when the scales of justice are in favor of animals over dead human beings, I have a problem with that. I have a problem. Nancy Mace chimed in on Friday. Okay, this was Thursday was the arrest. Friday, Nancy Mace made a statement on the cats that were poisoned to death in Berkeley County. And the press release read this way: "This sickening act of cruelty against innocent animals is absolutely unacceptable and must be met with the strongest possible consequences under the law. We thank the Berkeley County Sheriff's Office for their work to bring these perpetrators to justice. Violence like this against our pets has no place in South Carolina. We've always sent a clear message. Animal cruelty will not be tolerated. Not now, not ever." End of quote. And I challenge any one of you, to show me where she made a statement like that in the deaths of 3 women, Stephanie Dantzler and Shanice and Miranda Dantzler-Williams. Where was the concern from from House Representative, U.S. House Representative Nancy Mace, when 3 women died, who just happened to be black women? When they died, where's the statement at? Oh, it must be met with the strongest possible consequences under the law. Violence like this against our pets has no place in South Carolina. We've always sent a clear message about violence against. Well, what about the message against killing women? About law enforcement officers killing women? I challenge anyone. Find the statement that she made at the deaths of Stephanie Dantzler and her 2 daughters. And I guarantee you will not find it. Why? Because their lives didn't matter to her. But them cats did. Them 13 cats did. She said, send a strong message. Mace should be advocating for getting Emily Pelletier, the Charleston County Sheriff's deputy, into court, and should have been doing so since May 8th, 2022. Now, as I come closer to the close on this, there's some things that really, the God I serve, he brings some things to light. And it was brought to my attention just recently that there was a situation in a place called Missouri City. This is in the state of Texas. Missouri City, Texas. An incident that happened in June 20th of this year. Okay, June 20th of this year, where a 53-year-old mother, Angela Stewart, and her 16-year-old son, Mason. It was Mason's 16th birthday. It was dark, it was night, and they were turning onto a highway there. And their car was rammed by a officer of the law there in Missouri City. That's in Fort Bend County, Texas. That officer, I think I read that his speed was was over 80 miles an hour without any lights on, answering a call. Sound familiar? Officer Vladimir Viveros. Okay, I probably didn't say his name right, but remember now, this was in Missouri City, Texas, on June 20th of this year. Officer Vladimir Viveros was speeding without his emergency lights or siren on at the time of the crash that killed Angela and Mason Stewart. Remember, Angela was the mother, 53 years old. Same age, actually, that Stephanie Dantzler was, 53 years old. And Mason, her son, 16-year-old son, was in the car with. He died too. And it was his birthday. This cop killed him. That cop, of course, he was terminated, okay? And the former Missouri City police officer, this was a Missouri City Police Department officer. The former Missouri City police officer was indicted on 2 counts of manslaughter and aggravated assault after a crash that killed that mother and her teenage son and seriously injured. Actually, he had a passenger for some reason other than the back seat of the police car, which is definitely against policy and everything. Now, let me just make it clear, okay? The accident with him, the murder, okay? Because he again, they were pulling out. He had no lights on, no sirens on, and he just bam at 80 miles an hour. He was not arrested and charged until 4 months later, in September, I believe it was. The situation happened in June, or was it October? It might have been October when he was actually arrested, okay, and charged. Whereas in the Dantzler and Dantzler-Williams death with Emily Pelletier, she was charged and arrested 1 month later. But she paid her bond, her $75,000 bond, and got out that same day. But in this case, in Fort Bend County, Texas, and Missouri City in Fort Bend County, Texas, when they arrested this officer, Vladimir Viveros, and they took him into bond court, guess what kind of bond they gave him for killing these two, this mother and her son? They gave him an $800,000 bond. $800,000. The cop driving at night to answer to a call with somebody in his back seat, which is against their regulations, who was also injured in this, driving at an excessive rate of speed and rammed this car with this mother and her 16-year-old son in it, killing them. And he went to bond court after he was arrested. I think that was just a couple of weeks ago when he was arrested, after he was charged. And the judge gave him an $800,000 bond. Why is Charleston County so different than Fort Bend County, Texas? Why did the judge here think that it was okay to give three women that their life was only worth $25,000 each in bond, total of $75,000, with a law enforcement officer that killed them? I don't understand that. When I look at what happened in Texas, right? And that cop that killed those two, his bond was set at $800,000 bond. Well, let's back it back down in the death of the newlywed out on Folly Beach with Jamie Komorowski and her bond. Her bond for killing one person was $150,000 in Charleston County. Somebody make it make sense. That doesn't make sense to me. The bond issue, those are judges. I don't know whether Scarlett Wilson and the Ninth Circuit would have any input with the judges. I don't know. I don't know that much about it. But I know it ain't right. And just think, an $800,000 bond set against Emily Pelletier might have been a bond that she might not have been able to post at that time, that would have prompted her to be in jail all of this time, not harassing the victim's family, the Dantzler and Dantzler-Williams families, about, can I take a trip here? Can I go there? Will you let me go there? I'd like to go here. I'd like to go there. Instead of celebrating all her holidays and everything and joyously with her family while this other family is grieving, If they had a set an $800,000 bond, maybe Emily Pelletier would have sat in jail long enough to say, just like this other person, Jamie Komorowski, did, I want a plea deal. I want to get out of here. I know I did wrong. And I know I can't get out to enjoy life. I know what lays ahead of me, so let me accept a plea deal. It doesn't make sense. Somebody should make it make sense, because it doesn't make sense to me. Alrighty? I don't know about you, but it doesn't make sense to me. Alrighty? I've covered everything that I wanted to cover tonight. And I hope that you all that stayed on will share this out, because it just doesn't make sense. There's two different worlds out here, it seems like. When we talk about this Jim Crow segregation today, separate but equal worlds. They're separate but equal worlds. You can't deny that. 2.5 years ago, a mother and her two daughters were killed by a Charleston County Sheriff's deputy. The evidence is huge against her. But still in all, here it is, 2.5 years later, and there's no court date. And there's not even a projected court date. Is that justice for this family? I almost cussed. I decided I'm not going to cuss, though. No, it's not. It's not justice. That's abuse. That's adding trauma on top of trauma. That's re-victimizing the victims. That's saying to the Dantzler and Dantzler-Williams family, as far as our judicial system and the representation that they deserve from our prosecutors, our solicitor's office, they're really telling that family, I'm going to cuss this time, we don't give a damn about you. That's the message. That's the message, especially when we look at the bride, right, who was killed by the drunk driver. And my heart goes out to that family. It should never have happened. But thank God for a judge that set her at least a $150,000 bond, that made her stop and think about it and say, maybe I better take this plea deal. Not like that woman that killed these 3 family members with a $75,000 total bond. The message is that their lives ain't worth nothing. Their lives ain't worth as much, or worth just as much as 13 dead cats. I'm not making this up. The information is readily available for anybody that wants to look it up. I haven't lied in this live. And it don't make sense. And every night, Scarlett Wilson is going to go home and pat herself on the back because she's doing a good job. Because she's never experienced what the Dantzler and Dantzler-Williams family has experienced. Never. Every night, that judge that set that bond, that judge ain't thinking nothing more about this case. The judge ain't watching this live. Don't give a darn about it. $25,000. When the same type of scenario happened in Missouri City, Texas, and the bond that was set for that police officer was $800,000. I'm waiting to see. I'm really interested to see how long it's going to take before he goes to trial. That'll be another live. Because if he gets to trial in any time less than 18 months or less than 2.5 years, oh, I'm coming back and talking crazy. Believe it. Believe it. Because I'm really sick and tired of certain people getting screwed by this system. And it needs to stop. Again, as I come to a close, I personally would love to, you said a clerk and the solicitors. Yeah, Scarlett, I said it earlier. Scarlett sent us, Evangelist, Scarlett sent us a list. She said it's this court It's the defense attorney, it's the prosecutor's availability and witness availability. But the reality is, ain't nothing in there asking the family about their availability. Everything that she answered to Raphael's questions had to do with all of them and none of the family. They don't care about the family. And what I read, that was Scarlett Wilson's answer. I didn't make that up, okay? Answer to Raphael James, okay? So I understand what you're saying, but I just go along with what, I'm going to take Scarlett Wilson's word at it first, okay? That's the first time that she admitted that it had anything to do with her office. That was the first time that she admitted that. So I understand that if that information is not widely spread and publicly known, okay? All righty. But somebody make it make sense. Somebody and make it. Christmas just ain't Christmas without the one you love. And for the Dantzler and Dantzler-Williams family, for Miss Betty, for Randall Williams, whose 2 daughters were killed, Shanice and Miranda, for Eric and Darren, Miss Betty, it's like a mother and grandmother. She lost her daughter and 2 of her granddaughters. Eric and Darren lost their sister and their 2 nieces. Brittany, the sister, if you go back and watch the press conference where we were outside, you'll hear from Brittany and how that pain is still in her while she continues, just like the rest of her family, to be victimized by this system. It's time to stop this foolishness. And again, I will put it out there. If Scarlett Wilson wants to sit to the table and talk about how we can improve this justice system, where we can work it similar to the way that they work medical emergencies. They call it triage, where we triage the cases out to the court system that we can get in and get out. A case like Emily Pelletier with the evidence against her, that's not going to be a long case. I don't care if she say pick 12 or not. I don't care whether she wants a jury trial or not, or a bench trial. Doesn't matter. The evidence against her is overwhelming. The timestamps on her driving her car, the speeds that she was at, the fact that she blew through the stop sign, the fact that she deviated from the path that was sent to her by dispatch, telling her which way to go. But she was in such a hurry to beat her partner to the darn crime scene that she went her own way, drove according to her own speed limit, and killed 3 people according of her own free will and volition. And she needs to be held accountable for it. I was going to talk about the lawsuit that's pending there, just as in the Missouri City case, there's a lawsuit pending. I was going to talk about the length of time or whatever, but I'm going to pass on that for tonight. I think I've given you all enough to feed on tonight. And thank you all for spending the time with me tonight and talking about this most pressing issue. This is pressing. It's important. It's important. It's time for us to stop being misused. And when I say us being misused, I mean those who are not necessarily in a position to, say, push the buttons of this system that has been pushing against us as a people for far too long. It's time to change that. It's time for us to live in that nation where those last 6 words of the Pledge of Allegiance is in effect, with liberty and justice for all. Either it's going to be for everybody, or we need to abolish the system. One of the two. One of the two. This is the pastor. Again, thank you all for sitting in tonight. I really appreciate you. It's 1 hour, and I'm closing it down right now. Anybody got any questions or whatever, hit me up in my inbox. Holler at your boy. Listen, I love you all. Season's greetings. For those that are hurting right now, know that you're in my heart and you're in my prayers, and that I love you. And not only when I say I speak for my wife also, because we stay in constant conversations over all of you all. So to each and every one of you, I wish you well. I wish you the best, and I love you all. And Scarlett, I love you too. But if you're wrong, you're wrong. And that's part of love. Love tells the truth. It tells the truth. It doesn't lie. It doesn't cover up the truth. Y'all take care. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll be back on again soon. I got something else to talk about, and it might be, it's probably going to be something about the new police chief in North Charleston. So get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. I love y'all. Take care. Peace.